Hey everyone, Duke Nuka 3D here again with another special snowflake from my collection. And today I have my mint condition US Army M3-10A1-6 lightweight optical. Now, the M3 series lightweight service masks were designed around 1943 as more or less a replacement for the earlier M2 series heavyweight masks. They incorporated a shorter M3 hose, a lighter weight subjectively lighter weight M10A1 canister, and they also featured the advent of an inner oronasal cup. Earlier on, the M3-10A1-6 masks were made out of a gray Class B rubber, similarly to the M2 series masks, but were later produced out of a black neoprene rubber like you see here, due to the shortage of natural rubber during the Second World War. Now, there are many different examples of the M3-10A1-6 floating out there due to the variety of companies producing them and the parts. You'll see different combinations of rubber colors, face blank shapes, paint, and all that good stuff. You'll see ones with black lenses, you'll see ones with gray lenses, you'll see ones even with black outlet valves, and all sorts of various nuances to the shape of the deflector system and quote-unquote nose pouch of the face blank. But here I have my example today. Where I'm going to start with this, the carrier. The carrier is made out of an olive drab canvas. Earlier on, these were OD103, which is actually the version that's supposed to go with my set, but Pixel Productions, who I bought this off of, accidentally swapped out the carriers. So, interestingly enough, a lightweight M4 10A1-6 super small, which is what this carrier is meant for, went to a guy known as Fossum History. You can find him on Facebook. I don't know if he's on YouTube yet, but yeah, he has my old M4 10A1-6 super small, but he has the proper OD103 wartime carrier that's supposed to go with this particular example here. So we've been considering organizing a trade to get our proper carriers back, but obviously that's not the case currently, so I'm just going to roll with it. The later OD103 carriers would be correct for post-war with this mask, post-war reconditioning, because the M3 and M4 series masks were used into the Korean War and probably were kept in stock until the early 60s. Also, the only difference between the M3 10A1-6 and the M4 10A1-6 was literally just the position of the head strap. As you see, the M3 10A1-6 has the lower strap positioned further back, whereas the M4 10A1-6 would have it positioned closer to here, similarly to the temple strap, in a very much the same configuration. And it would also have something known as a rifle skid, which is a raised groove of rubber just below this corner of the rivet, and that would prevent the butt of a rifle from getting caught on the strap when shouldering. Moving on back to the carrier here, because I'm sort of phasing in and out of history and review. It opens with, the M6 carrier here opens with 3 lifted dots. God, I love lifted dots. And also notice the super aesthetic US and Chemical Corps logo on the top flap. And then before I move on to the inside, you have this long, decently thick shoulder strap that has this weird double hook system. I've never figured out the purpose of this, and it really doesn't aid me at all in anything, so I just kind of leave it like that. And then you have the odd waist strap, which you would think it would buckle from here, and that's how you could easily undo it, but no, it buckles from the complete opposite end. So I have no clue why they did this. It's also well known that the M6 carriers, they often threw out the masks and used these as musette bags, haversacks, just to carry every little tidbit. So M6 bags are quite easy to find on their own without protective masks, and it's very sad that most of the lightweight service masks are found are only the super small variants, but every so often a wartime variant like this will pop up every so often. You can see the markings, Army Lightweight Service Mask, and then you can see the post-war repurposed markings where you see Field, Mod, Small, M4 10A1-6, and then the lot number, and Mask, Protective, Field, Mod, Small, all that good stuff. You have some more markings on the top here, nothing really to see. On the inside, you have this large these large fleece patches, and those are to prevent the lenses of the mask from getting scratched up. You'll have 2 canister retainer straps. These hold the M10A1. The M10A1 canister from falling out and sliding around generally. You have a small loop down here, and this is for holding the anti-dimming set. You have 3 large pockets which span the entire length of the carrier, and these are for the various accessories, which I'll get into in a minute. You have the anti-dimming cloth. These, you had several different variants of these during the Second World War. You had an anti-dimming stick, which typically came in a mustard greenish, brownish colored tin, and would come with a wax crayon as well as a cloth. But this is just the anti-dimming cloth. As you can see, it's all rolled up inside there, and these were treated with a special composition, which I guarantee is all dried up by now. Oh, pardon me. But nothing really to say about that. It comes with the instructions on how to properly use it. You have the M1 anti-gas eye shields. No clue what these were for. I honestly don't know what these were for. These were often used on their own as sun, dust, and wind goggles before sun, dust, and wind goggles. But my set is in very nice condition. All the sets are very nice and usable. They can still be folded up and properly snapped into place. And I honestly just don't know what sort of anti-gas properties these would have had, and if they would have been useful at all, because they really don't have that good of seal, and they're generally just very cheap, and they just don't seem like a sort of thing you would generally want to use for chemical warfare sort of purposes. But they did very well as sun, dust, and wind goggles, and in fact, General Erwin Rommel had a set that he kept on his visor cap, as most of you would probably recognize. How he got a set, I don't know. Here we have the original factory box that the mask came in. As you can see, it says Lightweight Service Mask M3-10A1-6 and a U for size universal marking. You also have Gas Mask Service Lightweight on the top side of the opposite edge. And then you have some sort of factory stamp, which has sadly been covered up by packaging tape. And there's nothing to see on the inside. You have an AG there on this flap. I don't know what that means, but it's there. I should probably start moving this stuff out of the side. Pardon me. Here we have the face form that the mask came in made of a very stiff cardboard, fiberboard material. Not quite sure what it is, but nice to have. You have the individual gas protective cover, dated December 9th, 1944. This one I've already opened, and I've unfolded it on several occasions. I'm not going to unfold it because it's a big pain in the ass, and it is very fragile because of its age. What it basically is just a giant green trash bag, which has a clear portion on the top for the soldier to basically... It's like a last resort poncho, except it's not a poncho, it's just a giant bag. And you could stick your rifle out the corner of one of these, just stab the bayonet through the bag, or the barrel of the rifle through the bag, and you could fire at passing aircraft. Here we have the M10A1 filter canister with the C3 waterproofing kit, which I'm not going to remove. The M10A1 canister is quite interesting because even though it was an early 40s design, it continued to see service with tank crew masks up until the early 1990s. And you can often find 1980s and 1990s stock M10A1 canisters completely unissued in their tins. You have the laminated instruction label for how to waterproof the mask and care for it after you have crossed whatever body of water you were needing to. And as you can see, there is a neoprene plug in the bottom of the filter, and there was a hose clip which was meant to clip the hose shut, obviously, to prevent water from entering it. Nothing much to say about that. And then you have the mask itself. As you can see, like I said, it is made entirely out of neoprene. And the problem with neoprene was it was known for becoming very stiff in cold temperatures. It was a process known as cold set, and it would render the mask impossible to open and don. So they were quickly looking for a replacement by the end of the war, and they pretty much at that point were repurposing earlier M2A2s and M4-10A1-6s as the M8 snout gas mask, which was basically just taking off the hose and putting in an angle adapter for the 60mm M11 canister. And I wouldn't doubt that they did that to a few M3-10A1-6s as well, but I think for the most part they were just using these for the M5 assault mask. And yes, the M5 assault mask was built off of stock M3-10A1-6s by plugging the hose inlet and remolding a filter inlet port on the side of the mask. So, but enough about those. As you can see, it has two semi-triangular lenses, pretty standard affair for US gas masks at the time. You have a US stamp on the forehead and a U for size universal. You have your typical American 6-point head harness and roller buckle system, very nice. You have a M8 outlet valve on the front, which can be unscrewed, which I'll demonstrate here, and that unveils the rubber valve disc on the inside. I'm going to screw that back on. Hopefully I don't screw it up too much here. Okay. The hose is secured to the mask with wire and tape and glue. It is near impossible to remove unless you know what you're doing. And same affair for the filter canister end as well. All wire, tape, and glue. Moving on to the back of the head harness, there is the M7 harness, I believe it is known as. It has, again, I've mentioned an oilcloth head pad, which is degrading a little bit, as is common with these masks, but still is overall held its shape very nicely, and nothing much to say about that. Interestingly, there is no cross strap across the top of the harness here. Most later US gas masks will have an additional strap spanning between the front two forehead straps to prevent them from sliding too far close to each other or too far apart. But obviously it doesn't have it. Now that's pretty much for the exterior, so I will take the mask off the head and show you the inside, then wrap up the video for you. Before I go to the inside though, I shall show you the marking on the chin piece here. You have a date stamp of 1944 made by General Tire and Rubber Company, and I have still not deciphered the clock roundel here, what quarter of the year it was made in. It seems that all dots have been filled in, so that means it was made very late in the year, or at least it was completed very late in the year. I'm not entirely sure though. So flipping the harness around, we can see the inside of the mask. It has a very unique oronasal cup, which is, you see most oronasal cups have the periphery folded inwards, but the M3 and M4 series lightweight service masks are the only ones where it was folded outwardly, which kind of is a better design in my opinion, because I don't know, it just feels like it's a better design to me. It is glued in place, as is most early oronasal cups are. You can see the valve discs on the top upper area of the nose cup. You have, folding down here, the TSO deflector tubes angled towards the lenses. You have another marking towards the back of the nose pouch there, GRM. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I assume it has to do with the manufacturer. You can see the rivets for the harness. And you'll also notice that the face piece of the mask is textured on the inside, as most US gas masks did that to prevent sweat from breaking the seal of the mask, but this was later dropped when they introduced the M17 series masks, which kind of is a shame because it made the mask feel a bit more sturdy and comfortable on your face, in my opinion. And aside from that, nothing really to say about it. It's a very good quality mask. Easily one of, if not my favorite gas mask in my collection, just because a classic piece of Americana, classic design, very aesthetic look with the contrasting gray and black. All around, very nice mask, if not one of the best of the war, although arguably the best mask of the war is the British lightweight anti-gas respirator series due to its removable canister. And I'd even argue the point that the German GM38 masks are also very exceptional. But me being a patriotic American, I always got to vouch for the M3-10A1-6 because my oronasal cup and my intimidating design. So that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to ask any questions you may have on this mask and, you know, give me your general opinion on the design and things of that nature. Let me know if I've missed any details, and I'll see you all later.